Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Byron.
an offender at the Eastern Reception and Diagnostic Center. You may start the conversation now.
This is A Mind Unconstrained. I'm Byron Case, an imprisoned writer and poet. I just entered my 25th year of a life sentence for a murder that I didn't commit. Prison can be tough, but one thing that's helped to sustain me for the past 2.5 decades has been my writing. I've published my work in magazines, literary journals, and anthologies. I also blogged from prison for quite a few years before launching A Mind Unconstrained. I think of this podcast and its companion newsletter as evidence that, in spite of my sentence of life without parole, I don't have to think or live like a lifer. My mind is free to wander. And the other day, I was thinking about how music can serve us in the midst of difficulty. During a breakup.
Every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn.
When we're in mourning.
And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in.
After an unsettling presidential election.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Sha-la-la-la-la. Sha-la-la-la-la.
Having music that speaks to us, or, well, I guess sings to us, can really make all the difference. A few years ago, I created a TV show called Playlist that we produced here at the prison. And I kind of envisioned it as like a fans-only version of the popular podcast Song Exploder. I don't know if you've heard that, but I'm sure it's worth checking out. I only know about it from what I've heard and read, but it sounded really cool, and I wanted to do something kind of like that here. And we had a host, my coworker, Twan, who'd interview guests that applied to come on and talk about their desert island picks for about a half hour. Everybody picked one song, and then Twan would ask our bosses to vet the music and get us an MP3 if it passed muster. And then they'd print out a Wikipedia page about the artist and just whatever other pertinent intel was available. Like, for instance, if the artist came up in a particular scene that the audience might want to know more about. Oh, and they'd also save a Google image search page, so we'd have screen after screen of thumbnails and maybe some idea of the artist's aesthetic. So I came up with a premise and recorded, directed, and produced all of the episodes, but the playlist was Twan's baby. He loved that show. He crammed for every episode. Even if he knew the artist really well, he'd make pages of notes in Microsoft Word, which he'd bring with him on set, loaded onto the studio's Samsung tablet. And he would always get a kick out of being able to tell a guest something about the song or artist that they brought in that, maybe they didn't already know. We'd record it in front of a green screen, just a couple of music lovers in swiveling office chairs. But in post-production, I always put them in front of a mixing board in this sleek, blue-lit music studio. People were always excited to see themselves on TV, sure, but I think the bigger deal was getting to introduce whatever song that they picked. The music that all of our guests would bring in was usually something that had some pretty significant emotional heft. A few musicians came on the show, but almost nobody really talked about technique or instrumentation. It was all about how their song hit them. So the feelings were what mattered, which should come as no surprise. I mean, so many of the great poets wrote about this. You've heard music hath charms to soothe the savage breast, to soften rocks or bend a knotted oak, or music, when soft voices die, vibrates in the memory, or hey, Mr. DJ, put a record on, I'm going to dance with my baby, and when the music starts, I never want to stop, it's going to drive me crazy. Music makes the people come together. Yeah. You know, the great poets. So Twan insisted that I be a guest on the playlist's first season because he predicted, well, we'd had enough work conversations about music that he really just knew, that I was going to talk about the late 70s synth-punk band Two Boy Army, their singer Gary Newman, and my own Desert Island album, Replicas. And he was right. The song that I introduced on the show was a single that later appeared on the CD and digital releases of Replicas, and it was called We Have a Technical. I love that song so much. I love that album. To me, Replicas, it's a touchstone in my life. I first heard it when I was 16, a time when I was still kind of feeling like full alienation as a weird kid on the autism spectrum, but was also kind of starting to grow into somebody capable of owning his complications. Two Boy Army's sci-fi concept album made otherness seem cool. I identified in a way with the humanoid characters in those songs that Gary Newman wrote, with their confused synthetic love and lonely dreams. The playlist ran for 5 seasons, 5 really good seasons, before Twan and I decided to retire it. Kind of a quit while you're ahead thing. Besides, we'd each taken on a bunch of extra stuff, responsibilities that really just didn't leave much time for researching music. But man, we had a good run. The playlist showed me, I think, how strongly people in prison, like, we really glom on to songs with messages. There's a thirst for transcendence here. It's transcendence of a kind that I don't want to label it quite spiritual, and I definitely don't want to go pushing motives on the people I don't know, but let's just say music's power to speak to and for our regrets and longings. That potential doubles when somebody's emotionally challenged, either by their idealizing of hypermasculinity or by stunted emotional intelligence, which a lot of probably most people in prison are. The songs that guests brought to the playlist covered a whole slew of genres, from hip-hop to hyperpop, R&B to EDM, and stoner metal to folk. But whatever type of music it was, almost every single guest talked about how impactful the song was for them. The number one word that they used was escape. Their music gave them like an almost tangible vision of life outside the chain link and razor wire. And not just outside, but most of them used their song as a link to the past. And that got me thinking. My song, We Have a Technical, and the whole album it's on, it connects me to a prior time in my life when I felt like a burgeoning sense of empowerment. But I'm also generally allergic to nostalgia. Like, I love replicas, but when I listen to it, it's not because I'm looking for a past life fix. I just like the album. So this got me thinking, what's a song that speaks to my present? Like, is there an anthem for my life as it is right now? And for that, for a song that conveys the right mix of humility and triumph, I turn to the incomparable and dearly departed Leonard Cohen. Cohen had a lifetime of profound songs that had maybe we'll call it a measure of tonal poverty. I hate saying that. His voice was as deep as the Marianas Trench, and didn't have a lot of range, but the poetry of his lyrics was just phenomenal. And I think this is encapsulated best by that old story, if you're familiar at all with Cohen, then you might have heard it, where the president of Columbia Records was sort of debating after a meeting whether or not to actually release his latest album. And he said to him on the phone, "Leonard, we all know you're great. We just don't know if you're any good." So anyway, I'm choosing a song for the here and now, but also one that bears we'll say a well-weathered optimism for what's to come. And I think that song has to be Anthem. It's the fifth track on Cohen's 1993 album, The Future.
The birds they sang at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away, or what is yet to be. Yeah, the war, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be cut again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
studies have a concept called wabi-sabi. And it refers to the view that imperfections comprise a source of authentic beauty. We might even say the true source of beauty. Cohen sings, "There's a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in." And I feel the truth of that line well up inside. The knowledge that even though things are bad, I can make do. I'll ring the bells that still can ring. That's it for Mind Unconstrained this week. I'm Byron Case. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard here, new episodes drop on Fridays, and you can also direct your browser to mindunconstrained.substack.com to subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get a new post in your inbox every Wednesday. I love getting questions, suggestions for future episodes, and comments, all of which you can leave on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or wherever you're listening. And ratings, reviews, and shares help Mind Unconstrained get further out into the world, so I really appreciate those as well. Until next time, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at ease.
The caller has hung up.